Hey, welcome back. So now in our basic series working with light, value, edges, and contrast, we're going to push on and work with back in charcoal, but we're going to work additive subtractively. Okay, so we've been working additively thus far. Now we're going to be working with a subtractive quality as well, meaning that expressions of light and edges can be done with erasers, but we need a tone on our paper that we can erase back into, and we can do that with compressed charcoal and a chamois. So I'm going to bring these tools out and show you. Now this is compressed charcoal and this is compressed charcoal, both these pieces here, and I've got this chamois here. The chamois is spelled C-H-A-M-O-I-S, a chamois, if you will. We just say it's chamois around where I'm at, and it is that animal skin product. Now, you could use a paper towel and you could use your hands and your fingers, but really this is designed for blending and moving around a tone on a paper for drawing paper. And it's a tried true methodology that takes us back to the Renaissance. So let me demonstrate that and why this is an interesting technique. Now, my chamois now is pretty dark. So it's already got charcoal on it, so I can already put down a nice tone. Now you can do that for a while, but if you have a larger space to cover, you're going to want to take your piece of compressed charcoal and you can rub that onto the paper. And that's a little harsh, but then we can blend that and chamois, what I call chamois that down, taking our chamois here and begin to manipulate and blend and push that tone into the paper back and forth, kind of the wax on, wax off, maybe Karate Kid kind of thing. You get the idea. And so that makes a nice tone that you can draw back into, like the tonal papers that we've worked with prior. So that's about what? About a 5 or a 6 in the value scale. That's pretty nice right there. Then you can come back in and draw additively, like so. You can make marks in it, obviously, like so, or you can draw an object when you draw a sphere if you wanted to. And so I'm drawing now in an additive process, and I can also draw now with my erasers, and that's what's fun about this, is I'll take the several different erasers. We've got our kneaded eraser, the white Stadler for harder edges, and of course we have the electric eraser, but then the Japanese mono erasers, the two that I have here, a little more blunt edge and the fine edge. And we can, if I wanted to sketch maybe next to that, and let me go ahead and pull in the camera a little bit. So let's take that into, or down to, we can see a little bit closer in. We can sketch in with an eraser. So I'll take a Japanese mono here, and let's say if I want to put a cylinder next to it, so I can start to say, hey, there's a cylinder here, there's the stem of the cylinder coming down and the arc of that cylinder coming in, and I can use a hard edge, to tighten that in. You can take either one of the Japanese mono erasers and start to tighten that edge in as well. So you can kind of draw in, subtractively as well. So the kneaded eraser gives you a nice, I'll take some out here, it gives you softer edges. This is especially nice for soft form edges, right, that take it out very gently. So subtractive erasing or subtractive drawing, really what I call it drawing with the light. And I think that's important terminology, because if I want to erase back, like if I want to take that cylinder out, I take my chamois, and my chamois takes it out. So the chamois, or the chamois, is the eraser, and when I draw with the erasers, I'm drawing now with light, or a lighter value. So if I wanted to come back in and catch another cylinder, maybe I didn't like that one for whatever reason, just demo purposes, I can catch it. And so I think that's important to see that kind of come alive, like so. Okay? So if, for instance, if I'm going to block in the light on this cylinder really quickly, then we can say, okay, the light source is coming down at this direction, and it's high, it's right, and it's a little slightly maybe to the front of that would put this cast shadow a little bit further to the back. Could push that in, and I could start blocking in the light now by gently taking off the light of this sphere here very gently. Right, take that off. I'm not pressing down hard at all, because the more I press down, the more light I take off. So it's, again, I'm drawing with the light, and so that's already coming out, getting me a nice light feel. I can go a little bit darker through there. Then I can add a core shadow in through here. Maybe tone this back a little bit further, add a core shadow, and in no time we're going to town with volume and atmospheric tone pretty quickly. It doesn't take long to get that to start working, and then I could put some on the back side here, a little bit darker. Of course, this is very sketchy, which is nice, actually. Loosen that up a little bit, and you get a pretty quick rudimentary, you know, light and value study on there very quickly. I can soften that in. You can use your hands a little bit now, and then when I want to go a little bit lighter, I continue to press down a little bit harder and a little bit further to take off more light. And it gets to a point where that's all the light that you can get out of that paper, because the charcoal does stain the paper a little bit, and you can't get maybe everything back to full light. But what if you needed to highlight through there? Well, that's where your white charcoal or your chalk comes into play a little bit. So if I wanted to get just a little highlight, maybe across here, I could take a little bit of the white charcoal or chalk and start to add it. Just gingerly kind of right in through here, and it starts to build up that tone just a little bit. And I think that works out. You get the idea. It works out pretty well. Now, let's say if I wanted to take all of this out, so I wanted to erase this back. Well, I don't use my eraser. I take my chamois. So I can take my chamois back and take this down pretty good, like so. And I can take my compressed charcoal here, and I can kind of take all this out, and you're kind of back to almost square zero. It's pretty nicely. There's a famous artist, a South African artist, really big name in the art world. Probably the biggest name in the art world in terms of just using pure drawing. His name is William Kentridge. Some of you might know him already. But he's internationally known, and he uses this technique to make very beautifully crude charcoal animation drawings. And he has an old camera that he projects. We're talking pretty big drawings, like at least 3 or 4 feet. And he'll draw a scenario, you know, a few lines, and he'll take a snapshot of it, draw some more, and then erase some and draw additive subtractively. And what he puts down is actually shots, and he puts them together into a crude film. So check out his work. He speaks about South African at that time apartheid and politics of that nature, if that interests you. And so he's a big name in the art world who uses additive subtractive drawing, among many, really. He's not the only one. So okay, so there is our additive subtractive little beginning lesson. You can see how that still goes through a little bit, especially when you use that white chalk. It's harder to get out, but I could draw back on top of that. Like, for instance, if I wanted to draw you know, a portrait, a head drawing on there, maybe I could come down and, like, here's part of the head coming through here a little bit, put down a neck, right, coming through side plane of the head, over bottom of the nose. And you know, I could develop a pretty strong drawing, you know, pretty quickly, and none of that later on would show through. I could erase that out and be pretty good to go, you know, pretty quickly without having to worry about that showing through. So it's really a nice technique. And if I didn't like this one, I could say, hey, I don't like it, and I could take it out again. Now, what if I used a paper towel? You can use a paper towel, but see how this doesn't work as well. I'm not saying you can't. There's certain techniques where you can use a paper towel. It's not. It's a little bit rougher and gruffer. Okay, so there's additive subtractive drawing. We're good to go. with that so we can put our smiley face, and we're ready to go on to a full now still life study. Okay, I'll be right back. We'll set up a new piece of paper, and we'll probably tape it off so we can keep our borders nice and crisp, and we'll start our next still life study. Be right back. Bye-bye. All right, so here we are now back ready for our still life study. So this is an 18 by 24 inch piece of paper. I'm going to put a 1 inch border around the paper. And really the tape that I have, the white artist tape, is about 1 inch. And so I'm just going to tape that border around just to keep a crisper edge when we take it off. It kind of looks nice. You don't have to do that, but it will be a little bit more presentable for me here, I think, if I do that. You could go, many different sizes, but again, mine's 18 inches by 24 inches. And so I'll just put down really quickly a white border, and we'll do that. And so I'm working with something to know here on my table setup. I've got about, it's a big table. It's about 4 feet by 5 feet. And I've got newsprint, about 3 or 4 sheets of newsprint over the entire table to keep it clean. And I've got some extra padding of newsprint underneath. So I've got about 6 or 7 layers of paper underneath there. If you're working and trying to blend edges and shadows with softer drawing materials right on top of a wood drawing board surface, that's really difficult. I would suggest some padding underneath, kind of a tried and true methodology. So I'll just put this 1 inch border down. I think that will be a very healthy solution for you, as opposed to trying to draw right on the surface of wood on your drawing paper. You'll bring up that wood will come out, and it's just harder to blend the materials together. So there are exceptions to that rule, but not many for now. So I would try to have a softer surface. So we'll catch this now with this edge here, masking it in and over. So we're going to be working with Additive, Subtractive charcoal here. So we just kind of did a little demo study, demo of the technique, and of course we'll get into the weeds here, really get going with it. There we go. Okay, and then we'll take one more edge over here and do that as well. So again, these are basic section. So we'll be dealing with lots of simple volumes and solids, and my suggestion is to draw some from the images that I have. Set up your own little volumes and solids and simple still life objects later on once you want to go on to setting up your own. I think that's very smart to do. So okay, so I pressed that tape down nice and firm on that paper, and again, this is an artist quality tape you want to use. I wouldn't use a heavy kind of tape. For goodness gracious, don't use duct tape, right? That would be rough. Or any kind of heavy tape. You could use blue painter's tape. That would work pretty well. Okay, so I'm going to tone this paper down. And again, about a mid-tone value, about a number 5 on the value scale. This works as in atmosphere. So I'm going to take my chamois, and let's see how much I can get out of it before I need my charcoal pencil or charcoal stick. Sometimes I like to do it without it. Just saves me that time. Sometimes I can't. We'll just see. And so I'm just going to tone it in, blend it, kind of blend it best I can through here. And it's pretty, the chamois is already pretty soft, so it just kind of naturally does that. One word of advice, please don't wash your chamois. Once it has a lot of charcoal on it, that's a good thing. Keep a chamois if you're going to use it for other drawing types. If you're going to use pastel, or you're going to use maybe graphite, but certainly pastel or carbothello, and you like a color, I would have a chamois for each media or material. So I'm going to need a little, I might need a little help here. Let's see if I can get enough to go through. Maybe I'll turn it around, turn it over. That might help a little bit. Yeah, it's going to get me some. So I kind of like to fold it a little bit and then move it around so where it gets all the charcoal I've used in other setups, other drawings to rub out. here. So you're just rubbing it on there, getting a nice surface. A lot of this can get drawn over later. And we'll come over here with it. There we go. Just kind of blend that through smooth. Okay. Turn this back over here. There we go. And it doesn't have to be perfect at all because there's a lot of drawing that's going to happen on this surface. But it's a tone that we want to put down. Again, it's about 5 or 6 in the value scale. And it gives us an atmospheric quality that we can draw into additively, right? And also wonderfully subtractively, which are two very expressive ways to draw the figure. Or excuse me, draw anything you want, not just the figure. But draw still life objects, draw out of your head, draw animations like William Kentridge. Doesn't matter. So this is a pretty even gloss tone. You could do all kinds of expressive things later on, and that's kind of more advanced things. But I'm assuming you're watching this because you want to start at the basics and slow things down and really learn the craft of art making and drawing from its, bare bones kind of beginning. All right, so that feels pretty good there. That's working out pretty well. So let me bring that back in and over, and I think we're ready to start our still life. All right, so we're popping up an image. Now, you can lay in a couple of ways. You can lay in with a big charcoal stick. I don't suggest it. I suggest when you get to really big drawings that you can use a charcoal stick. Bigger drawings, bigger tools. Smaller drawings, smaller tools. 18 by 24 in the history of art making is still pretty small, so I'm going to use charcoal pencils to lay in. So we're going to do our lay in line. I'm probably going to use a hard or a medium. And then we'll start blocking in. Now I'll show you the power and the kind of the magic, if you will, or the reason why you can use additive subtractive. You can start blocking in with the light. And so our goal is to get a drawing that separates light from dark in just 2 steps, but fairly quickly, okay? All right, so the first thing I'll do now is I'll start to lay in the table image. Now my picture plane's a little bit longer than the image we're working from, so I'll make it a little bit longer. So the first thing I want to look at is where that table is coming from and to out here and over to about right here's where the corner of that table is going to kind of feel through, right in over and kind of down. Okay, so we're looking down on the objects a little bit, right in through there, and I might take a hard edge and just kind of give it a solidifying sort of edge for now. I could change and move around. Graphite charcoal, additive subtractive charcoal is really nice and malleable. It really is kind of like working in clay. I know that sounds weird, but it kind of is. Okay, so it means you can change it quite a bit and alter it. All right, so I'm going to bring the cylinder and over here. So this will be the extra over here. I'm going to play off this edge the same way it's in my image that we're looking at, and so that means I'll have more over and through here. So the image might end here, and so the cylinder might start over here. So I think I'll start roughly with that cylinder a little bit. That might help a little, just to get a feel for composing in through here. And then so the rectangular block will be here about that high total down to about right in through here. And then the cylinder will be over and a little bit lower. So I'm using really fast horizontal and vertical alignment projection. Okay, so my cylinder here. So I'm going to come over through, working on that ellipse, okay? And through here, I can draw it all the way through if you want. And through there. And we can come on out a bit. And now it's angled out just a little bit and through here. Right in through there. Okay. Now if you make that line too dark, you don't like that line. Whoops. There it goes. You just take that out. Take that additive subtractive line out through there. It's a little bit harsh. So let's take it down just a little bit. There we go. You can take it out like that. Blend it through. There we go. And we can take our cylinder line here, maybe out this way to get a better line through there. It's coming through. There we go. I might feel an axis line through here and over through here. Get a feel for where that's at. There we go. We'll lay that down, then we'll come back to where the cylinder is, and it'll lay down through here. And just pulls back in perspective this way, like so. There we go. So we can see now, I'll come down, bring this table down a little bit. So the image ends about right here. Yeah, about right there. So all that's just going to be extra space over through there. So I'm going to take my straight edge and tighten up this cylinder a little bit where we see it here. And it gets a little bit smaller as it goes down maybe to there. And through there. There we go. So we can hit that there. And then I'm also going to delineate where the form shadows are. And through here, our light source is top right, somewhat in front of us, or more actually more to the side, but it is right. And start to hit this cast shadow just a little bit, coming through here, coming over through there, and starting to wrap across and through, like so. There we go. And I'm going to leave it. Right now we're going to stay out of the shadow because the tone of the paper is going to do a lot of work for us in the beginning. Okay, got that. So we'll start to pull together now this cylinder, excuse me, this cone in through here. So it's about that height. Right in through here, we'll freehand sketch it first. And we see it about right there. It's a little hard to discern because of that value of light hits that table pretty hot and bright, but it ends about right in through here. Don't be afraid to draw through it a little bit to help find it. So it's about right in through here, and maybe not quite as wide, maybe about right in through there a little bit. And bring that over in through here, point that out just right in through there a little bit. Notice how loose, start to keep this a little bit looser, right in through here. So we can bring over, we don't really see that line of the table, which tells me that table is a little bit lower. It's about right in through here, so we can continue to adjust about right there where it's going to happen, and then over. So we can always make several passes to adjust that through, and that will just come on out a little bit later, right in through there and over. There we go. And it will come through maybe just a little bit longer to our corner. Don't be afraid to adjust and make errors in drawing. Form shadow, just a slight bit right in through there. So we'll capture that. I don't see any cast shadow there. Then we'll come through and start working on that box. It's slightly, just slightly 2 point, not by a whole lot, just slightly tilted and pushed over. Height here, and about right here. Maybe just a little bit lower. Right in through there, and we'll bring that right through. It hides behind a little bit, so about right in through there it looks to be, maybe even less than that, maybe about right in through there, and then we hit that over. So I get pretty sketchy. You can keep it sketchy, then tighten it up and through here and over and through, nice and vertical up and up through here. There we go. Catch that bottom a little bit, and I've got some complex cast shadows, but let's get the form first. Let's forget about the ball on top. Let's get the box. We've got the box here, going back in perspective here, so we know we're above the box here and there because we see the bottom of the box, right? So we know we're standing above it a little bit. Keep it there. It's a pretty slight view, about right in through there, pretty tight, and then we'll bring that bottom of the back edge of the box over a little bit, right in through there. So now we can put that ball on top. So the ball's a little higher, and we see that the ball's a little higher than the cone, so about that much higher. So I'm using horizontal and vertical alignment. I've given a lecture on how to use that with still lifes and the figure. Go back and catch that in the lessons. It's somewhere. It's there. And so we'll go a little higher here with that ball. It's almost as wide as, it's about as wide as the table here, right? Boom, right in through there. It's about that wide, up and through and over. Okay, around, so got that going. And now we've got some shadow, form shadow to deal with. So form shadow coming across the ball about right here, right? Coming over, right in through there. Highlight will be roughly right in through there a little bit. Now we've got this cast shadow on this box. I'm going to tighten up this edge for now. Notice how I use a hard edge a lot, especially with man-made objects. There's no problem with it, but I almost always freehand it. So give it a natural sketchy look. If you don't, you're probably it's going to look a little stiff. We want to stay from looking Stiffy McGillicuddy. We want to stay away from that, whoever that is. Okay, so form shadow there that we've linearly delineated. Now we're going to catch that cast shadow coming back over here on the box, right in through there and over. Now we've got some of that cast shadow because the ball is close to the table, right in through here and over. We'll catch that. Just curve it down. That's going to be a nice little place where a lot of little shapes and forms are going to happen. Okay, so we've got that, and then we're going to come over, catch this edge. I just about made it a 1 point. It's slightly 2 point. It really doesn't matter. Sometimes when you get such slight angles at 2 point, just make them 1 point. It doesn't matter. But cast shadow now forming from the box, so the rectangular box over here, leaves it kind of a triangular shape. Just look at the shape. I know that's a cast shadow and it gets a little bit softer later on. And then I know that this cast shadow comes over just to help me kind of keep things in line here. So we're working pretty good there. That's working. And so now I've got the pyramid and the rectangular box to place. I could do either one. I could put the rectangular box on first. I could put the pyramid on second. I think I'll just do the pyramid first since it's in front a little bit. So where I look for its point. Here's what I'm looking at. I'm thinking about the tip of the cone to the tip of the pyramid. Notice that it's at a diagonal, and notice how much lower it is than. It comes about center of the sphere. So about right in through here. That's where I'm going to place it. I'm pretty close. I could be off a little bit. I don't mind being off some. It doesn't matter. It really matters more within the figure, but you can kind of play with that. So you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be down to the 2nd of an inch, the 64th of an inch. That would drive everybody nuts. Okay, so we're working with this pyramid coming down. I'm trying to find out where it ends. It ends about where the cylinder is. The bottom of the cylinder, maybe actually a little bit lower, maybe to there. It's a little bit bigger pyramidal box. So about right into there. I'll overdraw it a little bit so I can see it. So now I'll bring this over. It doesn't have the same feel as this angle. This angle, that movement is the same. I know I probably set that up and wanted that. And I'll talk about that later. I need to do a video on setting up and how to set up, not so much how, but the reasons why setting up still life is important, and some strategies actually for doing that. So, all right, so we'll get our pyramid form working in, coming down, okay, through and over, and we'll come back. It's a 2-point pyramid for sure. Right in through there, and it ends about right here. It's hard to see. It's barely visible. You'd see it a little bit better if it wasn't an image, if you're just watching it or looking at it with from a still life. Okay, so there's kind of the feel for the bottom of that, and I can take that out later. So let's get the back of it. So the back ends about right there, and we'll get up to the tip of that pyramid about right there. Okay, there we go. So that feels pretty comfortable where we're working at, and now we can get the cast shadow of the pyramid. This wants to go in this direction and be pretty hard edge in the beginning, right in through there, and then it gets softer later, and we'll take care of that when we render out our drawing. Now this part of the cast shadow is coming from this back corner way over here and feeling its way through to about, looks pretty good, about right there. So I'll just tighten that up a little bit for now, and then we'll play around with edges later on as we make our way through the still life. So I'll let this line fade over here because that's going to be, and this is about right at, I may have a little showing in my drawing. Like I said, it's okay to miss it a little bit. It's not a big deal. And then this line will extend, has to extend a lot lower, which makes more sense. So see how I adjusted that was my first line. and I'll just leave it. It's no big deal. It's a drawing. Let it be a drawing. You can let mistakes show through, and you can correct, and those things will come out later. So right in through there, and then it turns past the pyramid. Now it's over here probably a little bit further, and then back, kind of back over in through there. Okay. So let's now work on the back rectangular box. It's pretty much a classic 1 point. And where it horizontally comes up at, it's about right here, and it's just slightly underneath the spear, right in through here. So I'll come over right into there, and that feels pretty good. And I'll catch it where it comes down about right in through there. I can freehand it first. Sometimes the verticals I don't, I just draw them. It's okay. But I don't want to get too tight. So about right in through here, that might be a little far away. That's not bad. And then this one's going to come down all over and actually make it where it's gonna slightly come in a little bit right in through here. So that feels pretty good. So that gives me an idea of the length here, and then how I can bring it up over here and end it about right there. Okay. Now this curious top, since we are in 1 point and we're above it, we come back a little bit. This is where perspective plays a good role. So I'll show you what I'm thinking. This comes in, right? And this comes in, so we can kind of find out where the vanishing point is pretty close. Where these two lines, if they keep going up in here, they're going to meet, and that's going to be our 1 point vanishing point in our image. In this back, I'm not going to show you where it's at. You can figure it out. I don't care where it's at. I just know it's there, and I feel my way through it, just like we do in drawing. But we know so much about perspective. We know where it's at. We can play around with it if we need to. So a little form shadow there that's falling across. And that's pretty much a plane there. We have a cast shadow to finish over here, right? Along the table. Now remember, I'm going faster because we've seen some of this, but slow me down. If you're following along with me, that's great. I love that. Keep doing that, but slow me down, stop me, stop the video, draw, and then catch up, okay? You can always stop. One of my students the other day, we were doing a demo in 3-point perspective, and he's like, "Oh my God, Mark, you were going so fast. It's like I was watching a YouTube video, and I couldn't push pause." And I started laughing. I felt bad for him, so we slowed it down a little bit for everybody. All right, so this cast shadow moves about right in through here. Take a look at the shape it makes. I'm pretty close to it. It's a little bit longer, but I'm not so far off that I don't really care. Not bad. Pretty good. This is a little bit of an angle here up to the box. Very slight, so I'll use an edge. And then ends right at the corner of the box as it goes back into perspective there. Okay. I think we're pretty good. Let's sit back now. Let's take a look at stock, and let's analyze what I've got here. Now remember, my image is longer than the image that has been taken, and so it cuts off about right at the end of this cast shadow. Just it actually gets it all in. So I'm just going to put a line there later on. I can make up stuff, or we'll let that fade later on and over. So let me see make sure all my edges are good. Catch a few things because we're about ready for now blocking. And we're going to block in this time and separate 1, 2, 1, 2. I can use this as demo space. Actually, that'll be good. So we're going to block in as now with the light instead of the dark. Remember before we've been blocking in with all shadow. Now we're going to do it with light. So when we do this, when I start to do this, and I'm going to ease into it, I'm not even going to get that light. I'm probably going to be just about this light in the beginning, and I'm going to use probably mostly a kneaded eraser. What we're saying is this is the 1, that's the light, and this is the 2, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2, or you can think of it as 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, in whatever relationships that you have. So we want to be very, very understanding that we want to simplify this process into a dark side and a lighter side. And what makes the light pop is the light is trapped, okay? So the light is trapped by the dark. It's trapped by the 2. So think of it as an animal trap. Maybe that's not so nice, but it's surrounded. It's being conquered and under siege, if you will, by the darker value. And that's what makes that light pop. So I can't create a contrast right? If I have light paper and I erase on my white paper, that's not going to make any sense. Why? Because we can't create a contrast. But here we can. So we have a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 step drawing, which gives you a lot of power to later on get very, very complex. Now the only thing I might change now is I got a lot of extra lines here, so I might take my my chamois here, and see how I'm erasing? I can take that down and clean that out just a little bit. Okay, I might take this off since this is going to be my explanation space. Now I figured out what I want to do with that. That'll be over here. So remember, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 in your steps. Light side, dark side. Light side, dark side. Don't look at the detail. We don't want to see the detail in the value. There's a lot of details going on, and especially later on when you get into very complex drawings with the figure or drapery, or what if all these objects had stickers on them with Hello Kitty stickers or you know, whatever it is on there. Don't want to get caught up. All we want to see is the form, composition, and the value relationships, and then we can break that down as we go further on. Okay, so now what we want to do is do a good block in a 1, 2 step, and let's do that with our eraser. Okay, let's start. Okay, so let's block in. So again, just remembering our light sources from the right, above a little bit, shooting down here. So I'm going to take again my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to start to block in. Remember, this is our little practice area over here, and just gently start to take out the light. Not too heavy, not too dramatic, but take out enough so we can get a good separation of light and dark in our composition. I think I'll start over here with the sphere a little bit. And I'm kind of dabbing down at it. I'm kind of just pushing down, and then to get this a little flatter, and then I'm just going to start kind of rolling across this sphere. And what that does, it helps me feel the contouring of that object too as well. Let me pull in a little bit now, since we can get deeper into this, and I'll pull out some, pull in some as per needed, and you can get the feel for that as I'm starting to take out the essential qualities of now the light, because we've got our tone down. That gives us a nice tone, and the next step after this will be to add in our core shadow, which will really give us that pop that we want. So I start to block in there. I'm going to go a little bit step further and go a little bit lighter in through here. So I know that there will be a highlight through here, and I might push that later. I can maybe take it even further, but that takes care of that. Let's take care now of the cone. And remember, the kneaded eraser that we're using here, very soft edge kind of erasing. If you try to take something that is really hard edge, like one of the monos or the white Stadler eraser, I'll put it over there, it gives you that hard edge quality. It's much harder to get a soft edge with that kind of erasing. So there are limits to erasers and what you need for this type of expressionistic use of the eraser. The eraser now becomes a drawing tool of light, and the actual erasing, of course, is done with the chamois as well. The one thing I look at right now, I want to correct, that bothers me, is this ellipse of the cylinder needs to turn way over right into there. That's better. Okay. We can soften that up a little bit later, but that needed to turn a little bit better. It's a much better elliptical curve. Okay. Sometimes you don't pick up maybe on an error to a little until a little bit later on. Okay, so we'll take that out a little bit here with the light. We know that now the table, the box, the top of the box. I'll come over here. I'll even keep this soft later on. We can crispen this up a little bit. Can just start to take that out just a little bit, coming through there, coming over. Cast shadow here on the box from the rectangular box. So we can come down here. And notice that when I start taking off the charcoal, it gets a little bit dirtier here. That's fun. I kind of like it dirty. That means that I don't get too light too quick. Sometimes when I have a very clean eraser in the beginning, it can take it off pretty quick. So I like to really ease into my light when I draw or erase subtractively with the light, rather than get too light too quick and have to adjust back down. Okay, so let's take on the cylinder now. So we've got the form shadow, where really the core shadow ends about right in through here. So I'll kind of capture that. It's really pretty banded, isn't it? Because we see that stronger core shadow, then we get a lot of reflected light underneath here. So as we come through now with the cylinder, we can kind of just gently see. I can make this stroking pattern roughly. I could come across like that, which will be fine, but I could also kind of start to get the feel of the contouring around the form too as well, like so, by just pushing that mark making in a curved way. And then I kind of blend it a little bit as I take off by going a sort of diagonal fashion that it is in terms of its orientation as well. So catch that edge a little bit, and then we'll take that off a little bit later. Right now we're just, again, a simple block in of our tone. We'll come over here, and now I'll come this way a little bit, and that starts to just get a simple light pattern of where we want. We'll take that out, and we'll come over now and start to hit the table a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit lighter, just barely, just to separate light from dark and give us a clearer picture, of what's going on with our composition. So the cone and the table running through here are about the same, so I'm going to take out that stronger line for now, because we'll reorient ourselves to our line. Even though I'll lose this edge a little bit, I still see enough of it. I can still gain that back later if I need, so we'll take this light out. Again, I'm just taking my value up just a little bit by taking this out through here, blocking this in through here, and through and over, catching that shadow shape, cast shadow, coming over here against the cylinder. Taking this through over here. Okay. Then when it gets pretty dirty in through there, then I can start to take some of that out a little bit. And of course you can always tone down a little bit if you need to. But again, we want to get that light and dark separation. We want to, once we do our lay-in, we start doing our blocking, we really want to make this very clear. So in through here, probably this tone is going to be pretty accurate. It might even be darker now over here because we'll get darker through here. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave off of the block and light till about right in through here. And then this is pretty subtle right in through this area. So I'm not taking off much at all because it's more intense around the cone and right in through here of the cylinder. Start to take off that edge a little bit later on, reconstitute that later. This will be a little bit lighter. Right now it is a little bit darker, but I'll start to just take out just a little bit through here so we can see that. Of course, these edges will get diminished later in terms of their stronger line. You can take some out, and you can still see the charcoal mark in through there, and that can be diminished later. But that's starting to give us a nice clear picture of the composition coming together. That's what this is for, is to light and dark steps. Okay. So just cleaning off the eraser here. I may take out just a little bit here. So you see the difference now, it's clean again. And so just, now I'm not being super meticulous about the spacing, getting all these spaces. I'll get there later on. You can get there with harder edges later on. I just want to reveal the light and dark situation of the composition. So we'll come over here. I'll keep my head out of the way. Lighten this up a little bit. In through here. Now we've got, again, the light source coming from the right. So the line on the pyramid will be on the right side of the object. So in through here. So we'll take off a little bit. I'm not taking off a whole lot. I'm not pushing down very hard. Very light kind of pressure. just enough to start to reveal a generic and general 1-2 step drawing. That's why it's good to start at basic drawing exercises with very generic kinds of objects. Later on, I'll go to more intermediate, more difficult forms. Maybe I'll create a new section of intermediates. There we go. And through there, so now we have a good separation there. And then right in through here, in this area, I'll go a little bit lighter too, as well, so we can get a separation. In through here. And it starts to get a little bit darker. It's kind of a halo. I kind of have a line in through here too where I adjusted the table. That's kind of a nice area to show where that gets to be kind of a area where it gets darker and it fades away. It loses that. So we can come over here and grab this light here and over. There we go. And we'll go a little bit lighter. And through here. Then if you wanted, you could take a hard edge. Like for instance, when it's comfortable for you, and you could say, okay, like if I wanted to keep that a hard edge, just take your eraser and kind of kick it like that a little bit, and that helps too. So this is a little bit lighter. Through here, we can take a little bit off. And through there. So again, subtractive means of drawing additively and subtractively. So when we take and we draw on the surface, obviously it's additive, and then we take off, it's subtractive. But it both helps to illuminate the composition that which we are studying. Okay, so I'll take off a little bit more over here, and then we'll start to get down to the business of rendering more now, drawing more. Not necessarily rendering, but drawing more additively to add on coarse shadow. We'll start to make this composition pop a little bit more. So this is a little bit lighter through here. And you notice it creates a little bit of the eraser shading, so you're going to be more constantly involved in cleaning up the surface of your paper a little bit further. Okay. We come over here a little bit. There we go. Take that over and out. All right. Okay, I think that's a good separation now of light and dark. So let's set back a moment and analyze. So we've got our composition laid in. We've got our light and dark. We've got our objects in, obviously. We have our light and dark relationships outlined, or drawn in linearly. And then we blocked in our light with the kneaded eraser. So I didn't use the white statler. I used the kneaded eraser, and it can clean up pretty well. Now we want to start blocking in additively, coarse shadow, and start to develop the overall composition a little bit further, so we can start to illuminate even more intensely the light situation on the still life. So I'm going to grab a medium charcoal pencil, and I'll just start laying in, working in through here. I might actually even start with the background a little bit further and go through here a little bit. Let me maybe grab maybe a soft. That might go just a little bit faster in through here. So I'll grab our soft charcoal pencil and start to lay down tone now. And again, most of what I'm going to show right now in the basic section is doing this without a lot of finger smudging. See, I can do that a little bit. It's okay, but if you do that exclusively, it can kind of run away with you in terms of amateurism. And I think that's why you have to study the history of art, history of drawing, and painting, and so you can be careful with that. I think later on, once you learn how to draw well and combine mark making and using the tools with some finger smudging, you can make smudging work well for you, quite well for you actually. So remember, this is kind of our little scratch area to do little demos if we need, but we'll continue on here, blocking in more of the background. And notice how loose it is, really pretty loose. In through here, loose technique. And I could tighten it up later, but this is adding the next layer of charcoal material coming down. And value, obviously, through here. So I'm going to run this background tone into my form shadow a little bit, since it'll be a little bit darker. Let's see there. Catch that edge when I need. Now come back over here. We can get a little darker in through here. This area. And you can see now we start to illuminate. We're starting to get that light dark situation going on, and we can start to catch this edge a little bit. For now, you're always constantly catching your edges. If you need to blow stuff off, blow stuff off. And then we'll come over and kind of, essentially here I'm working back to front, or background, middle ground to foreground a little bit. You can think of it that way, but instead of blocking in all my shadows, I really am blocking in the shadows, but I'm not starting with the forms. I'm starting with the background tone. Let me bring this down a little bit. You can see that. It's kind of, it's a backdrop, and it kind of helps to see everything together, and it's such a relatively darker background tone that I thought I'll go ahead and block it in pretty quickly, and then we can get into the business of blocking in these forms even further. Because we've got this sphere here, I'm going to just start to block in a little bit of this cast shadow back in through here. Yeah, at this stage, I keep it real simple. It's kind of very shape oriented, and we'll get into atmosphere as we go further and further along. Catch this edge through here, constitute that edge, and through there a little bit. Come down. We'll keep on going. Now, later on, we'll use big charcoal sticks for bigger, much bigger drawings. Some students like to pick that up pretty early. It's like a runaway freight train. If you really want to lose the drawing really quickly in the earlier stages, pick up one of those and try to do this. It's hard to control that. So we have a smaller space, smaller tool. When we have a bigger space, we generally use a bigger tool. So be careful. So it may be more laborious to cover some of this background tonality that we need, but stay the course with the smaller tools, and you'll be rewarded with it with a couple of things. Number one is more control, which is what you want, and then more accuracy, and overall more aesthetic appeal later on. Now, if we're doing a drawing 5 times this size, like a mural size, then this becomes a very tiny little charcoal tool. So depending on scale matters. Scale does matter. It matters quite a bit. So I'm going to come over here and grab a first pass of coarse shadow running through here. And we can get good illumination pretty quickly. It's pretty amazing. Running through here. And I'll just keep moving on. I won't spend a whole lot of time. We got a wrinkle on the paper there, so just FYI. Catch it over here. Catch that edge a little bit. Try to keep those edges crisp. We can reconstitute them later when we need. Right now it's a first pass to start to become get more integrated into the drawing, a little bit more detailed into the drawing, and then start to get illumination happening a little quicker too. So I'll come back over here. And you can see that the basic block-in that we did with the eraser starts to really, again, show up. So there's a point where you can't take out any more light. A way to illuminate a darker area or a lighter area of your drawing, excuse me, is to make the dark areas around it darker to illuminate the sensation of light. So it's all about the interplay of, in this case, of the degree of contrasts that you want. Right now we have a minor degree of contrast, meaning that they're not calibrated so extreme, but we're going to get further along to the extremes rather quickly to get closer to the image that we're drawing from, putting down together. So I've almost got this first initial block in done. And notice I go in different directions, and later on I can smooth that out. Right now we want to keep getting an essential tone, and again I could use my hard edge to catch edges or butt edges when I need them. I haven't been using that, just to save a little time. And another thing you're going to notice about charcoal, the pencils especially, after a while, once you know, take a look at this pencil. After we've sharpened it, I've used it so much it's starting to go away and erode. So it's almost time for me to sharpen and reconstitute some of these pencils. I would suggest for myself too is to get more sharpened up so I can just flip from one to the other. But in some ways it's good to show you that you need to take the time, keep those pencils sharp and long, so you can turn them to the side to use those pencils in a kind of an unfettered way, in a more traditional sense, I suppose. There are always exceptions to the rule, but for right now, you want to follow the rule. So, initial background block in. So the next thing I'm going to do is start to block in the core shadows. I think I'm going to go darker here for just a little bit, and then start blocking in the core shadows of all my objects and the cast shadow, so we can quickly bring this up, but not before I sharpen my pencil. So I'll be right back and cut. Okay. Okay, returning in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, so now let's start blocking in our form and our cast shadows, and let me go just one area darker. Now notice there's a halo around this background area right in through there. That's nice. And so we'll get to that a little bit later. It's kind of in this direction. So right now what I'm looking at to go a little bit darker right through here, I've got it darker over here. Go a little bit darker in this corner. Now with a nice sharpened pencil, look how long that lead is. This way I can really lay it down and move, you know, quite quickly. And I can go in different directions, and I'm using a soft charcoal pencil, and I'm not pushing down very hard, so know that, but a lot's coming off. And when I go in different directions subtly, that helps to mix the charcoal together. It's like blending it with your finger, but you're really not. If I was doing that over here, if I was doing a lot of this, it takes out some of the texture of the actual drawing. And so, you know, it's a drawing. Let it be a drawing. It's okay to make it a little bit sketchier. I'll try to keep this one, just for the sake of time, a little bit looser. You know, I don't like to make a video over too long. Sometimes they need to be long, so just be careful out there. You know, it's a free site, and so you're getting, hopefully you think you're getting some, you know, a lot of long, lengthy lectures that are important. Sometimes they have to be long. You know, fast forward. If it's an area you know, fast forward. I do that all the time with stuff that I'm learning, different non-art related videos that I watch. So, you know, when you know something, that's great. Fast forward. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. I tell my students that all the time. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. Tell me the truth and get what you need. Okay, so I'll just reconstitute this edge. That's what I mean by that. Just catch that edge a little bit as I'm going along. I want to keep my edges tight when I need to, and then there are times when I want to let them be softer. And I'll let you know when I'm doing that. So, yeah, again, let's, you know, the whole idea of length of videos, I don't get too many complaints. Every now and again, it's kind of funny. You know, use the videos to put yourself to sleep. And so if you're an insomniac and you need a boring video to go to sleep, go for it. That's happened to me a couple of times. Watching other videos. It's okay, no big deal. But you should be hopefully active learning. So that's probably the biggest aspect I want to get across, is that we should be doing this mostly together as best you can, getting a good idea of it. Now, I had a suggestion from a student in Pakistan, Samiha, which was a really nice student. She's been contacting me for direction, and she suggested that I give assignments. And so I'm going to go back in the summer when university is out for the summer and I have more time. I'm going to be putting down assignments in the description section, not in the videos, but in the description section, so I could change them if I need to. But if you're interested in doing some more projects like that, what are some ideas you might not? I may assume that you may know more than you do, and so I thought that was a really good suggestion. So look for that in the near future when I have the time to get to it. So I'm going to try to do that for all the videos that I can use for that. So it's kind of a big project, and I'll probably do it over a course of a month or two. But look for that so that you can add assignments in similar type assignment projects to your drawing, and then be more self-paced. So, but remember this, as we're drawing through here, every section of what I have at the drawing database is meant to be done chronologically. So when you finish, like for instance, if you're going through the basic section and you finish with one video, like video 5, okay, it's just chronological. Do the next one, then do the next one after that. So that's how I'm making them. There'll be a point in time in a few years I won't make as many, because I'll have just about everything I need made. Hopefully I'll keep making more advanced stuff. But you'll just take it chronologically. I'll go from one to the next. But if you wanted, you know, different assignments to tweak them, you can do that or create your own. But I will put more assignments on there as well. So you'll have that. So just keep looking for that. So I'm coming in through here, where I'm almost finished now with just a basic block in the background after I've pontificated there a little bit about drawing instruction. I'll probably put you to sleep. Okay, so there's the background. And it's basic block in with a little bit more going on, and a little bit more atmospheric, lighter in through here, darker on the outside edges, and we can refine that later on, or you can keep it a quicker sketch. I'll refine it some, but I want to keep some of the strokes in there and keep it a little bit looser and fresher here. because it's just it's just basic drawing, so it's not real. There's not a lot of artistic flair and mark making that's idiosyncratic and hard to teach that we talk about in advanced drawing. It's real codified, if you will, very, very traditional. Okay, so let's block in a little bit now with the cone here. Right in through here, I'm going to catch this edge a little bit, catch a little line in through here, and then block in a little bit more. Probably have to come down this way and just kind of gloss over right in through here the cone. And I'm going to make a little bit more of the issue later here of the coarse shadow. Pull it out a little bit, right in through here a little bit. Bring it up to the edge of the cone. Now I've got a lot of little cone lines here, so I'm going to have to say, okay, which one is the real one? So I take the outer edge, kind of point off that top one. Keep that edge a little bit sharper in through here. And it kind of fades in the image a little bit. They kind of fade together right in through here. So I'm going to keep that soft for now. Later on there's more refinement to do, and we'll catch that. But right now I think that feels pretty good for now. Catch this cylinder right in through here, this edge, just a little, just a touch. It brings back the crispness of that crispy cylinder edge. Basically, it's a edge boundary, which is what we want. That boundary of the edge is nice and clean. So this might get a little bit darker in through here, just a touch, and then we'll start to catch these shadows in through here. So right in through here, I'm going to put one sort of darkening diagonal movement. Catch them both. We'll work on them both together. Another thing when you're drawing with charcoal pencils, if you draw for too long with one way with the softer pencil, one edge, it will kind of crook your pencil, make it kind of a hook like that. So I turn my pencil often so it stays even when I'm drawing. Like I'll turn it a little bit like that so it doesn't crook. That's kind of a weird little thing that happens. Okay. Like so, and through here. All right, so now we'll come over and start to catch this coarse shadow of the cylinder. So I'm going to turn it a little bit this way. Keep it in camera. There we go. Like so, so I can work on the coarse shadow in through here. So that darker banded area, soft transitions really on both sides of the image, or the edge of the coarse shadow into here, right, and blending into the reflected light through here, and then out of it. It's a little bit longer in this particular sketch. And of course we can contour it over here. It's a little bit longer, takes a little bit longer to do that. Sometimes I just go both ways, but you notice there's not a strong hatched mark approach as I let the blending of the tool happen, right? So just know that, meaning that I keep the touch very soft and just glazing over the tonality. Like so. So we'll do try to keep this quick for now, because we can go back and really tighten this thing up quite a bit. Now, one thing with subtractive drawing, notice that my hand gets on the image, gets a little dirty there, so I like to throw down a piece of plexiglass, or maybe I go for a bigger triangle so I can have more arm room. Of course, I hold it down a little bit and keep my finger underneath it so I can keep it off the surface a little bit, which helps. So I'm going to catch this cast shadow now underneath the tube here, the cylinder. It's craftsmanship. Remember this, craftsmanship or craftswomanship always matters, always. So good craftsmanship in your drawing practice, especially for beginners and basic people. Later on, that idea depending upon the postmodern nature of what you're doing, we can actually relax that. Sometimes poor craft can be good. I know that sounds weird, but for right now, craft is king or queen, if you will. All right, so we'll take this edge, keep it smooth. So now I'm gonna catch this edge here of the cylinder where it meets the table, the cast shadow. Make sure that's right now a little bit constituted, a little bit darker. Moving through there. Now it's going to get darker. I'm going to take one more pass with it for now. Go a little bit darker. In through here. And of course you could, if you want to use your finger just a little bit, you could, but just a little bit. Don't go crazy. Try to keep that in mind. If you're used to doing that, be very careful. Okay, pretty good for now. I'll go just a little bit darker. You can see there, and then we can work that later. All right, so I'll put it back to normative view here. Let's take a look. Make sure we're in camera. There we go. All right, good. In camera there. So let's continue on our journey here. So I'm going to leave pretty much this part of the cylinder. I'm going to catch this edge a little bit, and then we can really clean this up a little bit later. Curve that over just a little bit. It's a little bit darker, but it's subtle than back here, but I'm going to leave it for now because we'll get the subtleties at the end for now. Running through here, and then we're going to take on the cube now in the sphere back here. So let's come over. I'll start to catch this into here, catch this edge into here. Hopefully my head's not in the way. There we go. So we'll go a little darker back in through here, that cast shadow on that back wall and through there, and then we're going to catch this edge just a little bit. Bring this up. We can always fuzz this out, blend it out, make it a little bit softer. And then we'll catch the cast shadow of the ball on the table. Right through there. And I want to catch this edge pretty quick. Back here. Coming back and over. And then actually meets up about right here. So we see just a sliver of it right there. Just a touch through that ball. Or past the ball. And then the cast shadow of the ball on the table, then a little bit lighter running through here. We'll make it too much darker. So we're getting really close in there, and then we can tweak this later on. Then we'll work this sphere, form shadow, core shadow here of the sphere up and through here. Just like the cylinder and the cone. I'm going to catch this edge a little bit. There we go. Catch that over. And later on we can line that up and tighten. There we go. Alright, so let's catch that core shadow over here. So I'm doing this with the understanding that I'm going to make another pass or two to tighten this up and really get it perfect or close to where we really want it. But it's getting, in no time it's getting there with some background tone and then rendering the edges on the sphere here. We start to get illumination pretty quickly. And we'll come around the ball a little bit into here, keep that nice and blended. And here's where if you go a little dark, you can always, again, go and use your kneaded eraser. So I'm not going to do too much more here, but I will show you that really quickly. So if I gloss over this, go a little bit darker in through here, and then I want to go a little bit lighter. Well, we've got our resource, right? We've got our kneaded eraser to work that for us. So we'll come back in through here, and we'll probably have to go a step or two darker back here later, which should be fine. Which will actually be a good thing. So we'll catch this edge. So I can go a little darker now. So sometimes I don't say anything for a while. Now, for instance, if later on I want to go a little bit lighter in through there on the sphere, again, we can take our kneaded eraser and just lightly dab it. Just putting dabs together. I'm jabbing it, very gently dabbing at it to lighten up where I need to later on. And we'll keep it there for now. Because I want to take another pass or two at that. We'll lighten up the reflected light on that. We'll make that really come alive even better later on. But I think I do want to come up here and capture this edge around the sphere a little bit, crisping this up just a little bit. We can use a little line work to do that right in through, up and through here. And of course, you could use a hard charcoal or medium charcoal to capture the edge without being so dark with it, just to really tighten up that edge as it comes to the ball, right in through, about right in through here. Just takes that edge, cleans that up. And I'm drawing on the outside of the atmosphere. I'm not drawing on the ball. I'm just drawing around the edge here. Just to get that tightened in a bit further. All right, so we're looking pretty good there. So we'll keep going with our second pass of our block in here with our shadows. We'll go a little darker here in the cast shadow of on the box here a little bit for now. Both these cast shadows, obviously darker over here. For now, just a block. It's kind of a shadow shape, obviously. And through here and then down below. This cast shadow's a little darker, barely. It ends with a sort of semi-crisp shadow shape here, but because it's a cast shadow a little further away, there's atmosphere in between, it softens up a little bit. So we can take that through now. Remember, we're drawing. We're not doing photographic realism or representational art. Rather, it's not necessarily realism. Okay. So we'll catch this cast shadow on the table here from the rectangle. Put that down a little bit. Okay, got that. Let's go with our block in still. There's still a lot more refinement we can do. Quite a bit. Okay, there we go. Alright, so that takes care of that area. Now let's jump in a little bit to the pyramid. Notice that the value on the tone of the paper is already pretty close to the rectangle box reflected light or the form shadow, it can go a little bit darker, which I'll do. I'll put down just a little bit to go just a touch in different variations, but just a little for now. I'll kind of glaze over it a little bit. Because the value in a lit object is never generally flat at all. It's always got a little movement going on with it. Through here, so I've got a little bit of that table catching through. It's okay, it's a sketch, we'll leave it, but I could take it out with a lot of work. Yeah, we'll leave it for now. Keep this edge. I like to let the drawing mechanic show through a drawing some. If it doesn't get too much in the way, I think that's showing the process is great. It is what it is. It's a drawing. It's not a photograph. Same thing with painting. There we go. We'll catch that edge. It's pretty good. I'm going to catch this just to keep it a little sharp for now. Bring it down a little bit lower. Kind of just point that through just a touch, and then we'll catch that later on. Now let's take on the pyramid, which is important here, but before we do that, I'm going to go a little bit darker back here. Now, once we block in the pyramid a little bit, and take a look at the table a little further, then I'm going to just evaluate and redo this process, work from background, middle ground, foreground, and we're working from shadows right to light. Even though when we blocked in the light side this time, because we're on additive, subtractive, our own tone of paper that we can lift off. And you just repeat this process. In each wave that you repeat, it's kind of like a treadmill that you're running on or walking on. You repeat the same ground, and each time that you go, the next pass gets a little bit more specific and gets a little bit more detailed and intense, and you finish it out. I generally don't like to teach my students to finish it out one step, because you want to be able to see it all together as it becomes clear what you're making, as opposed to trying to render one little section out and then not paying attention to another section, and you might go too dark, or you might not be light enough, and it becomes piecemealed, or what I call jigsaw puzzle. You'll hear my students, I say that to my students here at NKU a lot, especially with the figure. Try not to jigsaw puzzle your drawing, meaning that you're working one little area, then you jump over to another little area, and you jump over to another area, and you still don't have a complete picture. And it's harder for your mind and your eye and your brain to work together, to put it all together, as opposed to doing this in waves like you would in Photoshop, right? And so you see it all together all the time, and you see a clearer image emerging that, of course, looks halfway. Like in our case, we know that this is not, it's maybe halfway done, maybe. And so we understand that we've still got work to do, which is fine, which is what we want. We want to see all this together. So I darkened in this outer atmosphere in the background tone. And of course, the shadow over here is encroaching in. It's got like a spotlight effect because of the light on the still life object. So this is a little bit darker back in through here. Now we're ready to jump in on the pyramid over here. And again, I want to point out that the coarse shadow on this pyramid hovers around the edge of the change plane transition from here to here. So it's going to be a little bit darker along this edge boundary, because the light's coming from here. It's going to be a little bit darker along this edge boundary, and a lot of this is going to be a little bit more reflected light. So it's perceptually going to be a little bit lighter over here in the shadow of the pyramid, and a little bit darker right in through there. Okay, so let me sharpen my pencil really quickly, and then I will come back and we'll do that.